Die Auftragsthemen dieses Jahr nehmen einen Faden auf, den wir schon seit 2010 ausgelegt haben, der sich immer wieder beschäftigt mit Formaten und Präsentationsformen. Dieses Jahr ist es ausgehend von einem Workshop von Marko Ciciliani, Music in the Expanded Field. Also wie funktioniert Musik im Kontakt mit visuellen Kommentaren? Wie ist der Kontakt hin zu anderen Kunstformen in den performativen Künsten? Und darüber hinaus haben wir sehr viele Projekte, wo wir ganz konkret diese Intermedialität befragen, auch kritisch befragen, weil wir feststellen, wir haben eigentlich hier im Vergleich zu, sagen wir mal, vor 20 Jahren fast eher ein Medienfestival als ein Festival für akustische Musik. Aber wir reagieren auf die Entwicklung in der neuen Musik in dem Sinne, dass wir das auch zeigen wollen, was die Künstler heute beschäftigt. Und die beschäftigt eben nicht nur, aber nicht nur das Streichquartett. Also wir haben dieses Jahr schon gesehen, dass wir sehr viele Eigenproduktionen haben, die eben an dieser Schnittstelle sich bewegen und für uns natürlich als Produktionsteam eine große Herausforderung sind.
It's a beautiful phrase. It's a reference to Rosalind Krauss's famous article about the expanded field of sculpture. I think it came out in the early 70s, and it was a time when sculpture was becoming more and more dematerialized. So instead of just an object sort of aestheticized and put on a pedestal somewhere, it became an environmental intervention. We moved towards installation and immersion and all sorts of other kind of ideals. And so, yeah, I think that music does seem to be pushing outward in that way as well, and, you know, looking for ways to integrate the senses and integrate different media, but looking, I think, at least we are, for a more synesthetic terrain, a terrain where there's mutual influence between sound and sight, and where we're not bound to traditional narratives, but we're actually creating a drama out of this material and human conflict and interdependence. You know, there's the kind of silence when you're sleeping, and there's the kind of silence when someone has a knife to your throat and is telling you not to speak, right? And that version, the violent silence, is a much more attentive state, partly meditative, but also kind of on edge. And I was hoping to bring people into that state of really heightened awareness, where they can pick up on the tiniest shifts of pattern or polyrhythm or material response to these kinetic and sonic forces. And then bring them out by the end, which we, of course, landed somewhere much wilder than that.
We are using one of the original traditional Darmstadt summer course venues from the 1960s, where there were a lot of seminars and concerts in the days of Stockhausen. So it's very site-specific for this place and for this event, something that can't be recreated in a different setting.
So there's no money for Darmstadt? Why not? For Darmstadt,
the idea is that your journey through the building simulates some kind of feverish, dreamlike experience. I mean, in the beginning it's very documentary-like. I'm using the traditional museum setting. And then after a while you're invited into the more darker aspects of the subconsciousness in the archive maybe, and it's getting more and more psychedelic and feverish. This is for me how I perceive also musical form. You actually use the music and use the spatial impressions to see new connections in material that you weren't aware of, and that suddenly things become logical just in the blink of a second. Suddenly it becomes very clear that you didn't realize before, and then it's suddenly gone again. And this kind of mental experience is very much how memory works. This is how you do it in psychoanalysis, and I try to use this cognitive situation as the starting point for my musical form.
Worauf man stößt.
To me, it seemed as if the movement and sound was triggered by an emotion, but you weren't fully committed to that emotion, and I think it is because of your eyebrows.
I liked that moment when you stopped the sound, and I was wondering if that could also happen to the movement.
The curve of tension which you create, tension and release, is not always the same in your sound and in your body, and this is something maybe to work on.
There's 3 dimensions of space that you're not exploiting, so you can be thinking, I'm accessing that cube now, you know, that part of space, and then like my back is accessing this part of space, and my elbow is down here, and actually use 3-dimensional space, because at the moment it feels like flat.
Der Auftrag war, mit Geräten von Hermann Heiss zu arbeiten, und diese Geräte sind in einem Archiv in CKM und die sind sehr schön. Aber dann haben die untersucht und diese Geräte waren nicht mehr zu reparieren, war zu gefährlich, halt, die wieder ins Leben zu bringen. Und dadurch bin ich auf die Thema gekommen von dieser Analog-Elektronik und andere technologische Entwicklungen, die aussterben, weil das nicht mehr passt zu bestimmten Standards. Und das ist das Tolerance Tax, wenn man ein Gerät testet, wie verschiedene Teile zusammenpassen. Wenn ich dieses Teil ein bisschen größer oder kleiner mache, bis wann geht das und bis wann funktioniert das noch? Die 5 Musiker habe ich sehr gezielt ausgesucht, weil die auch viel mit Elektronik umgehen und auch teilweise ihre eigene Instrument gebastelt haben oder entwickelt haben. Und dann haben wir ganz früh überlegt, weil man da im Publikum sonst nicht viel mitbekommt, dass wir Kameras da haben und dass das gemischt wird. Diese schönen Sachen muss man sehen auch. Also ich schreibe gerne Kammermusik, aber für dieses Stück geht das nur so.
So now the question is, how can we give these four artists, these four musicians, a role in the society as part of the four useful ones? Maybe the artists could go towards the society instead of the society trying to go to the art.
The title comes from the idea of making an opposition between music as an art and music as a commodity, something we can buy, something we can think as a product. Maybe we prefer to think music as an art, but somehow music is also a product and also something to make money with. So us as musicians, as composers, performers, it's our task, it's our problem to know how we position ourselves and what we do with this question of music as a commodity. So to make a music piece or a show about that requires a certain strategy, a certain rhetoric. And my idea was to make it in a funny way so that people could start thinking and wondering, but still finding a sort of pleasure or a sort of game through this question.
Beim ersten Klang hört man ernste Musik, so wie man beim ersten Ton der Orgel das Signal Religion empfängt. Bereits durch diese dem Phänomen vorweg beigegebene Klassifizierung hört es auf, das zu sein, was es beansprucht, etwas an sich.
Although the worker is an autonomous self-realized human being as an economic entity.
I think today, now I'm saying cliché, but I think today we are in a world of cut up and a world of mixing of information where the source doesn't matter anymore because we have Facebook and YouTube, which provide us a huge amount of images and stories and things. Everything is completely mixed up. That's, I think, one thing which was clear in commodity music, the fact that there is a huge amount of things which are happening and we somehow make our life in it. I don't really want to be entertaining because I think there are many things not to be entertaining to talk about, but entertainment, or at least game, enjoyment and sort of lots of activity is a way to go through deeper problems.
I like very much what you do. Like what I do. You don't. You don't do like it very much.
Darmstadt is a sort of a boiling pot of new music activity and thinking. Here is really the best place to be experimental. You have to have confidence in the audience. You have to trust the people that they are not going to smash everything and that they are going to go through the different layers of action, and that is possible only in these kind of places. So I was happy to be able to go so far here. Yeah. It's really a fantastic opportunity.
It's definitely filled with attentive and eager listeners who are willing to be pushed and who are willing to kind of be made to be brought outside their comfort zone. And it's certainly, we're in great company with all the other incredible music and theater happening this festival.